I think a public protection officer has been suspended. Suspension is the right thing to do while people are investigated. It's harsh if people are, if the allegations are found not to be true, but that is what would happen in any other sphere of work.
Now, we want to start with this story. I mean, it's been all over newspapers this week, but there are new revelations in the Sunday Times today by Harry York. A new senior official, Conservative official, is being investigated by the Gambling Commission over allegations that he placed dozens of bets on the timing of the election. It is Nick Mason, the Tories' chief data officer, and he is the latest in a number of senior Conservatives who are said to have done the same, alleged to have done the same. Anne Milton, I'd like to start with you. I mean, you've obviously been, in and around the Tory party for a long time. You worked in the Whip's office. Are people not told that they shouldn't do this kind of thing?
Well, I think maybe the suggestion is that people shouldn't need to be told, but I guess you need to go back to basics and assume that nobody knows anything and spell out precisely what they should and shouldn't do. I think, you know, I read the piece from Michael Gove, and I don't think that it plays into the Partygate thing. Partygate is the thing that shifted public perception of the Conservatives, and notwithstanding that these are allegations, so haven't been proven yet, all this does is feeds in to that perception. So it confirms views about the fact that the Conservative Party hasn't upheld standards in public life. It's not behaved well. There appears to be no leadership from the top. As you say, it's a shame people have to be reminded, but it would appear that they do have to be reminded how to behave. And so it just feeds into the story that is out there.
Do you think that those people who are facing these allegations, very senior people, should be suspended while they're investigated?
Yeah, I mean, I think a public protection officer has been suspended. Suspension is the right thing to do while people are investigated. It's harsh if people are, if the allegations are found not to be true, but that is what would happen in any other sphere of work.
Sam, where do you think this goes from here? We were just talking to Will Jennings about the polling on this story, and he says it has had cut through, that people are recognising it, and they are, as Anne Milton said there, you know, they feel like it goes to this bigger question of one rule for you and one rule for everybody else. Do you think it's really going to damage the Tory campaign in the final 2 weeks?
Well, I quite enjoyed in the article saying that the Tory campaign had been derailed by these allegations. I sort of think it was been derailed for quite some time. This might have dropped to 747 on top of a derailed train. They were going to lose anyway. They were going to lose badly anyway. This makes a recovery in the last 10 days even harder than it would otherwise have been. I think the other aspect, as well as the public cut through, is the fact that these people are quite senior people on the campaign, and they've had to take leave of absences. They haven't been suspended, but they have left the campaign. And when you add that to the fact that a lot of Rishi Sunak's other senior advisors are trying to win their own seats around the country, it's actually a very denuded campaign. There's not a lot of people left, which again, given how far they'd have to go in the last 10 days to make any kind of impression, makes that even less likely.
And there's a really interesting story I think it's in the Mail on Sunday today, from Anna Mihailova, who's written that Rishi Sunak cancelled an appearance at a campaign event with a Tory candidate because he's afraid of what's happening in his own seat, and that maybe his majority, which is fairly hefty, won't hold up.
Yeah, which is, I mean, as Sam said, to suggest this story derailed the campaign when the campaign got derailed a long time ago is nonsense. But if Rishi Sunak is having to fight in his own seat, then the Conservative Party has got a lot of problems. I've always felt, notwithstanding the polls, I think that the Labour majority will be smaller than is estimated because of the churn of votes. And, Reform might be sucking up some Conservative votes, but it will also be sucking up some Labour votes. I think the biggest loser in this campaign is democracy and participation. I think people are really fed up with this. And, if I feel anger at all towards my old party, it is because of the damage they have done to democracy. And I think that people have just really tuned out.
Speaking of democracy, the front page of the Mail on Sunday is President Zelensky reportedly criticising Nigel Farage for his comments in support of President Putin, saying he's been infected with the virus of Putin. Sam, what do you make of this controversy? Because as the Mail on Sunday makes clear, Nigel Farage is not the only Reform candidate who's expressed views sympathetic to Putin and the invasion of Ukraine.
No, and he's made these views clear for some time. I don't think anyone should be surprised that Farage has these opinions. What I think is more interesting in a way, I mean, they are, it's absolutely reprehensible. But what's more interesting in a way is that the Daily Mail, which has been, at least reform curious over the last few years, has decided to go for him on the front page with a quote from Zelensky in this way. And with then a stream of other quotes from all sorts of other people attacking Farage as well, which I think perhaps too late the Conservatives have realised how big a threat reform are to them, and that they need to go directly after reform rather than sort of being a bit nice to them while trying to attack Labour. But I wonder if it's just too late for this stuff to cut through now.
And please.
Yeah, if I can just come in, I'm never quite sure with Nigel Farage whether bad publicity actually ends up being good for him. For people who maybe haven't followed the war in Ukraine so closely, wouldn't maybe understand the nuances or the damage that Farage is doing in saying things like this. I always feel with Nigel Farage that any publicity for him is good publicity, and oddly enough, the more he's disliked, the more reprehensible he is, the better he does. That's my concern.
I mean, he is after Conservative voters. Do you think, there are some Conservatives who are, like him, sympathetic towards Putin?
I wouldn't have thought so. I would be very, very surprised.